Chapter 17. The next morning, Amanda packed her things for up to 10 days in Salt Lake City. She'd stay at the Grand America Hotel, because she liked their spa the best, and then she would get her work done during the days, while relaxing and taking in all the solitude she could in the evenings. There were 2 clients who needed her help, and she was going to honor her commitments, even if Ryan didn't like it. She packed up her car and drove through Soda Springs toward Grace, Idaho, instead of going the faster way through the canyon. She just did better going the way she preferred. She left an hour early to make up for her ridiculous detour. As she drove, she let her mind flit from subject to subject, which was what she'd needed for a little while. She loved living with her sisters, but having people around all the time after living alone for so long just might kill her. She stopped in Ogden for lunch, eating at Longhorn. As she sat there, she realized that she'd needed to eat in a place where her parents were remembered so fondly. It felt good to talk to the different waitresses about how things were going, but Brandy in particular made everything about the meal special. Then she drove the last leg of her journey into Salt Lake City and stopped at the Grand America Hotel. She valeted her car and went up to the room, glad to finally be alone after so long. The first thing she did was change into her pajamas, and then she settled on the couch in the living area and picked up her Kindle. She needed to read. It would take her away from the chaos that was life and ground her again, making her feel human. When it was supper time, she ordered room service, and then texted Ryan. "All settled in my hotel room and about to eat room service. Try not to miss me too much. I'm doing my very best. What are you up to? I just got home from work, and I heard the best story. Today was the day that Lauren cleans Justin's room, and he stuffed a pair of jeans and a shirt with old newspapers, and then he hung it from the ceiling in his room. Lauren went in there and screamed bloody murder. Oh, that's hilarious. I hate that I missed that. I bet she was ready to kill him when she realized it wasn't really a dead body." Amanda couldn't help but smile at the story, because she could picture it all happening. "I might have to call her later and ask about it. Just don't tell her that I told you about it, okay? I don't want to be on your sister's bad side. She's a little scary." "Does Lauren have a good side?" LOL. "Just kidding. She's the feistiest of us all and definitely the best cook." "That she is. It's going to be strange to cook my own supper and eat it without you. I've gotten used to your face." "I think that's sweet." Amanda really wasn't sure. "Who said they were used to your face?" "It is. Take my word for it. My food is here. Gotta go. Talk soon." Amanda jumped up and went to the door, wishing she'd had the forethought to put clothes on. Her pajamas were perfectly modest, but it felt a little weird. Once she had her food, she settled back onto the couch and used the coffee table to eat off of. She picked up her Kindle again and ate while she read, happy to finally be alone for a while. Asterisk. Ryan smiled down at his phone, glad she'd thought to text him. He really hadn't expected her to, because she had never reached out to him for anything but business, but he was thrilled she had. He went to his kitchen and grabbed a frozen pizza from the freezer. It was a pathetic bachelor meal, but it was just what he needed. He'd sit down with a Dr. Pepper, and he'd have his feast. And he'd watch Arrow. He was halfway through the most recent season, and he had to see what was going to happen. Asterisk. Amanda worked every day she was in Salt Lake, having a couple of massages as she went along. Her clients were both people she'd worked with before who had moved recently, so she'd had them take pictures of their new homes, and she'd designed sketches for them while still in Bear Lake. She met with each of them for lunch on different days and showed them her ideas, and they were both pleased, which meant the work was half done. Now she just had to find the things she needed to put her plans into effect, and she was gold. It took her longer than she'd expected, and she wasn't on the road home until 2 weeks after she'd left. She'd talked to Ryan every day, and she stopped by Dylan's grave for a few minutes on her way out of town. Someone was there next to it, and she almost didn't approach, but she wouldn't have the opportunity again for a while. The woman at the grave looked up, and Amanda recognized her as Dylan's mother. "Hi. I came to pay my respects," she said awkwardly. "What did you say to the mother of your dead boyfriend?" The entire situation was harder than she'd thought it would be. "There's room," his mother said softly. "I'm glad you still stopped by to see him and haven't forgotten all about him. You were truly the love of his life." "I'll never forget him," Amanda said, feeling slightly guilty for the time she'd spent with Ryan. "He was the love of my life as well." His mother shook her head. "Make sure you don't climb into the grave with him. He loved you, and he'd never want that. Just don't forget him." Amanda bit her lip. "I've been seeing someone else, and I wanted to come here and talk to Dylan about it." "Then I'm going to leave you to it." His mom stood and hugged Amanda. "Thanks for loving my boy and making the last year of his life the happiest." With those words, she walked away toward her car, and Amanda knelt on the ground beside Dylan's tombstone, as she had dozens of times in the past year. "I hope you know that I'm never going to stop loving you, Dylan, but I have started seeing another man. His name is Ryan, and he makes me absolutely crazy. There was no instant compatibility like there was with us. Instead, there was instant animosity. But now, well, we're spending a lot of time together. He's not replacing you, because you were my first love, and I'll always think about you at odd times during the day. I don't plan to marry him, but I'm trying my hardest to move on with my life, if that makes sense. You were my love, and he's the man who's teaching me to live again." Amanda put on his grave the flowers she'd purchased, the same kind he'd brought for their first date 2 years before. "I miss you every day." For a while, Amanda sat in silence with tears streaming down her face. This truly felt like goodbye. That she was leaving Dylan in the past where he belonged. She wasn't sure she was ready for that final goodbye, but it was certainly time. She finally got to her feet a long while later and headed for her car and the long drive back to Bear Lake. She looked back over her shoulder twice, glad that he would always be there to visit if she needed him, but she hoped she wouldn't any longer. Again, she took the long way home, making the drive at a leisurely pace. She had no need to hurry. She was afraid she'd gotten used to the laid-back lifestyle of the lake, but that was her new home. Was it so bad? She didn't ever see herself being one of those people who could stroll into an appointment 30 minutes late like the locals did, but being right on time instead of 20 minutes early. She could get behind that. When she was back in Richland, she stopped at the hardware store instead of driving straight home. She knew she had some dirt on her slacks from sitting in the cemetery, but she wasn't terribly worried about it. Ryan always thought she was too put together anyway. She walked to the back of the store, where he was mixing paint, and couldn't help but smile. "I need 3 gallons of lemon yellow paint, and you'd better not give me pineapple." His grin made the drive back to the lake worth it. He came around the counter and hugged her close. "I did miss you." "And my need for exact colors?" she asked. Ryan shook his head. "That I was happy to do without." She laughed. "I'm going to start on your house on Monday. Did you order everything I asked for?" He nodded. "Yes." "You still going to have Kayla paint it?" "Absolutely. She's great at what she does. You'll see." She had a couple of other little ideas that would brighten up his kitchen and make it look bigger. She couldn't wait to get started, and she'd thought about it a lot during her trip. "Everything taken care of back in Salt Lake?" "Yup. 2 happy clients. I don't have to go back again unless another former client calls and asks for a job." Ryan tilted his head to one side. "Is that why you went?" Yes. I still have an office down there, and I have 2 women I trained taking over my clients, but both of them insisted on me, so I had to go. I'm not one to leave people high and dry. That makes sense, I guess. It does. I promise. Are you coming over for supper tonight? I will if you'd like. Want to watch our show after? I'd love that. And I desperately need a walk on the beach after so much time in the unbreathable air of Salt Lake City. I don't know how I ever lived there. She kissed his cheek. I'll see you in a couple of hours. With that, she hurried out of the store and to her car. She didn't want him to think she liked him too much, after all. When she got home, she carried her things in and went straight to the laundry room to start a load. She was glad she'd packed as much as she had, but everything was dirty now. She'd be eating supper in jeans and a t-shirt, and Ryan would just have to like it. She'd bought a few more pairs of jeans while she was in the city, knowing she needed to fit in a little better. What had seemed chic and very practical for working in Salt Lake City wasn't for working here. Here she needed to wear a pair of jeans and a nice blouse for the office, so that's what she'd do. She could adapt. Sure, she'd still be more comfortable in slacks than jeans, but she was in Rome, and that meant living like a Roman. After the laundry was started, she followed her nose to the kitchen, where Lauren was cooking something. She didn't know what, and she really didn't care. With as good as it smelled, she'd eat it no matter what it was. That smells fabulous. Lauren set the spoon she was stirring some kind of sauce with onto the counter and hurried around to hug Amanda. I missed you. Don't go away for that long again. I'll try not to. I missed you, too. You're a good sister. Lauren shook her head. Mr. Mystery is on my last nerve. You wouldn't believe what he did to me. Amanda was glad she already knew so she wouldn't have to pretend not to find it amusing. When Lauren had finished the story of what she'd seen when she went in to clean his room, Amanda shook her head. You must have been scared out of your wits. I know I lost 6 years of my life. Jerk. Maybe you should quit telling him he's a serial killer. Yeah, like that's going to happen. Lauren gave Amanda such a wicked look that Amanda walked away, shaking her head. Her sister was insane. Chapter 18. After supper and their 2 episodes of Lois and Clark, Amanda and Ryan went for a walk on the beach, holding hands and talking about the time they'd been apart. I didn't know you were coming back today, Ryan said. You completely surprised me. That was the point. I thought it would be a good surprise. It definitely was. I was missing you more than I thought I would, which is ridiculous. Amanda shook her head. And why is it ridiculous to miss me? He chuckled. I do have a way with words, don't I? I mean, it's strange that I missed you so much when we haven't been seeing each other very long. Sure we have. We'd see each other in the hardware store all the time, and I'd think about throwing whatever I could find at you, and you would think about kicking me out of your store and never letting me back in. That's seeing each other. That's not exactly what I meant. He shook his head with a grin. But we were really a mess in the beginning, weren't we? I don't know if it was just in the beginning. You're still pretty darn testy sometimes. I just don't know what to do with you, Ryan. You're always welcome to kiss me. Amanda laughed. I think that goes without saying. As they walked, they reached the taco boat, where Brandon and Taylor were sitting together at a picnic table eating. Join us. Brandon called. I have more tacos. Amanda glanced at Ryan. We had supper, but it's been hours. I'm all for a couple of tacos. Ryan nodded. Tacos sound good. Sit. I'll get them. A Sprite for Amanda, and what do you want, Ryan? Dr. Pepper. Be right back. Brandon got up from the table and hurried off. Amanda looked at her sister. Do you sneak off and get him to make you tacos every night? Taylor shrugged. I'll never tell. Amanda laughed, and Ryan grinned. I like it when you laugh. It's not like I never laugh, Amanda said, frowning at him. I guess you laugh, but you don't usually seem to laugh from deep down inside you. That only happens when you're around your sisters, from what I've seen. Ryan wished he could make her laugh as heartily as her sisters did. Well, we have lots of inside jokes after so many years of being sisters. Amanda looked up as Brandon came back with their food and drinks. I need that Sprite more than anything. Thank you. You're welcome. Glad you stopped by. He moved across the picnic table from where he'd been sitting to sit beside Taylor. Gives me an excuse to sit closer to Taylor. Taylor wrinkled her nose at him. Like you need an excuse. Probably not. But I do need to be close to you. Amanda watched her sister with Brandon, a little surprised at how very close they'd gotten. When had that happened? She was happy for Taylor, but it seemed to have happened so fast. Ryan took a bite of his taco and sighed. I need you to deliver to the store every day. If only you were on the lake. You should take a break at noon every day and go to the Band B, because I go there and deliver tacos. I feel left out. Why? You were just invited to go to the Band B. Don't be whiny, Ryan, Amanda said, winking at him. I'm not whiny. You're whiny. Ryan grinned at her, and she smiled back. I'm glad you're home. Me too, actually. I enjoyed my alone time in the hotel, but I was ready to be around people again, she said softly. Taylor smiled. Amanda has always needed her alone time more than the rest of us. Kayla and Lauren would be in the treehouse, Alyssa and I would be with Hannah wreaking havoc, and Amanda would be home reading a book like a good girl. Reading is good for your mind, Amanda said softly. I always figured you'd be the one opening a bookstore. Or an art studio. And here you are, an interior designer. And Hannah is opening the bookstore. That bookstore is so much more than just a bookstore, Amanda said. You are going to be amazed at everything she's doing with it. I'm working on designing themes for the childcare center now. It'll be visible from everywhere in the store, so the moms will know their babies are being taken care of. That's really cool. Taylor shrugged. I can't wait to see it. And shop there. You know, if you wanted to make full use of the place, I'd be happy to help you with the baby angle. Oh, you just keep making your tacos and drawing your comics. Taylor nudged him with her elbow, and Amanda couldn't help but wonder if that was some sort of signal to get the man to be quiet and stop embarrassing her. How's your comic strip going? Ryan asked. It won't be in all the papers until after Christmas, but it's already paying me a little to put me under contract and keep me from signing with a competitor. I'm really excited about it. I won't starve when it's not summer. Amanda grinned. I don't even know what your comic strip is about. The Bear Lake Monster, of course. And all of his victims. I'm thinking of adding a pretty brunette that he secretly falls in love with and he can't bring himself to eat. What do you think? You should name her Taylor, Amanda said quickly. I'd read that. Yeah, she could be a recurring character. Would be lots of fun. Brandon looked over at Taylor. What do you think? I refuse to even talk about this. You're being ridiculous. Taylor shook her head, but Amanda could tell she was pleased with the idea. After they finished their tacos, Ryan got to his feet. Thanks for feeding us, Brandon. We're going to head back. You two be good. He took Amanda's hand, and they began the walk back toward the Band B. You're closed tomorrow, right? It's Sunday. No, we're not closed, but I don't tend to go in on Sundays unless we're just slammed. Why? I want to rent bikes and go for a ride. I used to look at all of those cool bikes they rent out, but my parents never really wanted to take us. Ryan shrugged. We could do that. I couldn't imagine taking 5 girls out for a ride like that anyway. 6 with Hannah. And the cousins would have come along, too. There wouldn't have been more than 20 kids, though. Your dad sounds like he was a great guy, but I sure can't blame him for not doing that. But yes, I'd love to go biking with you tomorrow. It's such a pretty area. We could just walk or rent one of the 2-seater ATVs, too. Maybe we can do that next weekend. For now, I want to bike. All right. Biking it is. I'll come by for you around 10. Does that work? She nodded. That works. And we have to eat at Crepes and Coffee. It's my favorite breakfast place in the whole valley. If that's what you want, then that's what we'll do. See how accommodating I am? What color bikes should we get? I'm not sure they have lemon yellow. I'll know it when I see it. And I get to pick out the colors because you said that. Ryan laughed. You're easy to tease, Amanda. You're a pain in my butt, Ryan. But she said it with a smile, and he knew she liked him, which was good because he was pretty sure he was falling in love with the difficult woman. When they got back to the band B, he glanced at his phone. Tomorrow is a late start day. Why don't we do one more episode of Lois and Clark? Sounds good to me. As they walked past the dining room, they heard arguing. I refuse to make you something to eat at 10 o'clock at night just because you fell asleep and missed supper. Lauren's hands were on her hips as she fought with Justin. You knew I was going to eat. Why didn't you save me a plate? He asked, equally annoyed. Because I was hoping you'd finally met your match and someone had stabbed you instead of the other way around. Lauren, you make me absolutely crazy. I have a feeling you were that way before you got here. Lauren walked to the freezer. I have a frozen pizza. I could pop that in the oven and set the timer, but you'd have to get it out yourself. And I'm only offering because Taylor thinks I need to be nice to the guests, even the annoying ones. At that, Amanda put her hand over her mouth to stifle her laughter. Lauren was going too far, even for her. I'll take the frozen pizza as long as you put extra cheese on it, Justin said. Amanda walked into the living room and sat on the couch, watching as Ryan sat down beside her. She did her best not to laugh hysterically, but she knew that Ryan saw the amusement in her eyes. She turned the television on louder than she normally would so her laughter would be drowned out. It's going to be boring around here when he leaves. Ryan nodded, looking over his shoulder toward the kitchen. Are they always like that? She nodded emphatically. Always. I'm waiting for the wedding invitation, because those two have fighting down to a science. She settled back against the back of the couch and reached for the quilt that was always there. Their mother had pieced it, and when she got chilly, it was the perfect solution. She covered up with it as she watched, and out of the corner of her eye, she saw him watching her. Shows that way, she whispered. He laughed. I'm cold, too. Wanna share? Amanda thought about it for a moment. Why did sharing a quilt while they watched TV seem so terribly intimate? Sure. She turned the blanket sideways, so it would cover them both, and felt him slide closer to her, his arm coming around her. They didn't usually sit so close as they watched, but she found she liked it. She thought back to her talk with Dylan that morning in the cemetery. Was she really betraying him for liking hanging out with Ryan as much as she did? And she wasn't just hanging out with him. She was kissing him. And she really liked his kisses. Did that make her a bad person? She sighed and snuggled closer. If it made her a bad person, then that's what she was. Whether she wanted to be or not. She missed Dylan with everything inside her, but Ryan was filling the hole he'd left. He was so different from Dylan, but she felt the same things when Ryan kissed her as she had with Dylan. If she was wrong for this, then she was going to continue to be wrong. After the show, she walked Ryan to the door and went into his arms for a goodnight kiss. He held her for a little longer than usual, looking down into her eyes as he pulled away. "See you at 10. We'll do crepes and then bike ride. I hope you can keep up." She laughed. "You will be eating my dust, Ryan. Watch and see." She was still grinning as he left, and she went upstairs to get ready for bed. Ryan made her feel like she was alive again. What more could she ask for? Chapter 19. Amanda dressed in white shorts and a casual top the following morning and was waiting in the living room when Ryan arrived. Alyssa and Nick were visiting, and she was enjoying the conversation with her oldest sister when the doorbell rang. "That's my cue. We're going bike riding today." Alyssa grinned. "You always tried to talk Dad into doing that." She looked genuinely excited that Amanda was going to get to fulfill her childhood dream of riding bikes all over Bear Lake. Amanda had never been happy with her own bike at Bear Lake. She'd needed to rent one. "Yeah, and he would never take me. So today I'm going with Ryan." Amanda grinned, excited about their plans for the day. "Call me when you get home tonight. I need to hear all about this Ryan thing." Amanda shrugged and went to the door. "Nick and Alyssa are here. Wanna say hi?" "Yes." Ryan followed Amanda to the living room. "You two survived the honeymoon, I see. I thought you were getting back last weekend." "We did. We just haven't been out much, and I forgot to charge my phone. My next job starts Monday, so the honeymoon is officially over, and we're back to the real world." Nick was watching Alyssa and smiling at her as he spoke. "Well, I'm glad you're back. I could have used some advice while you were gone, but no. You were in Yellowstone, only thinking about yourself." Ryan grinned, letting his friend know he was joking. "Mainly I was thinking about Alyssa. No man could think about himself with someone this beautiful at his side." Alyssa blushed, but her smile told Amanda everything she needed to know. Her sister was happy, and that's all she cared about. They'd have to have a long talk later, when time permitted. "I'll call you later, man." Ryan turned to Amanda and took her hand. "It's time for a bike ride. Crepes first." "I could never forget the crepes." Alyssa frowned. "I don't want to go for a bike ride, but would you guys be offended if we joined you for crepes?" Amanda shook her head emphatically. "Not at all. Let's go." The two couples took separate cars to the crepe place and met up when they arrived. The women found a table while the men ordered for them. All of the seating was outside, and Amanda wanted to sit in the shade. She'd be in the sun enough that day. While they waited for the men to join them, Amanda quietly filled Alyssa in on what had happened with Dylan. She felt as if she was doing something wrong by not telling her eldest sister what all the others knew. "I just didn't want you to feel left out if I didn't tell you." Alyssa looked sad. "I'm so sorry you went through that. You should have come to me. I talked to Mom about it almost every day after he died. It felt right. But now that she's gone, I feel kind of lost." Amanda shrugged. "And it feels so weird dating someone else, but I really am attracted to Ryan. He's a good man. He makes me crazy sometimes, but I think that's probably normal. Very normal. If he didn't make you crazy, it would mean there was no chemistry. It's the absence of emotions that tells you there's no point in a relationship." Alyssa watched as the men walked toward them. "Does Ryan know?" "He knows there was a man I was dating who died. Nothing more. Tell him the whole story when you get a chance. He needs to know. I made that mistake by not telling Nick about Tim." Amanda sighed. I'm sure I will when the time is right. Ryan put a tray on the table with 2 paper plates on it. You got the breakfast crepe. I went with the pizza crepe. He slid a Sprite toward her and handed her a crepe. I assume you wanted your drink. Always. Amanda reached for her crepe and took a bite out of it, holding it in the cardboard sleeve. She sighed happily. They have the best crepes in all of Idaho. Alyssa grinned and reached for hers. Thanks for letting us come with you. We didn't want to horn in on your date, but crepes were calling my name. Nick laughed. Crepes are always calling your name. I've never met a woman as into crepes as you are. Now you have, Amanda said. Alyssa and I were the two who begged for crepes the whole drive up from Salt Lake City. I'm still surprised Mom never kicked us out of the car and left us on the side of the road. We probably deserved it. Of course we did, Alyssa said with a smile. But she loved us, so she never let us hitchhike. I wanted to a few times, though. Lauren was the loudest baby in the whole wide world. Nick bit into his crepe and looked at Ryan. I see you talked the girl into going out with you. I really thought she had better taste than that. She does. I think she's taking pity on me. I'm so pathetic. Ryan nudged Amanda with his shoulder. I'm not going to argue with you. Pathetic is the perfect word. Amanda took another bite of her crepe, grinning at Alyssa, who laughed. Poor Ryan. Everyone always picks on you, Alyssa said with a grin. Well, it can stop right now. Ryan shook his head. I'm no one's whipping boy. But his laughter told them he enjoyed it all. By the time they were finished with their crepes, Amanda was ready for their ride. She knew she wasn't strong enough to bike up one of the mountains, but it would be fun to ride around the lake. Amanda chose bikes for them, and they began riding down the highway. When they had a chance, they crossed the street and began biking closer to the lake. She loved the feel of the wind in her hair and actually kind of liked that it was too hard to talk as they rode one in front of the other. It was nice to just be together and not have to make conversation. It was early afternoon when she stopped and walked along the road beside the bike. He caught up with her and dismounted as well, walking beside her. I don't think my butt is ever going to be the same, Amanda lamented. I haven't gone on any major bike rides since I was a teenager. I should have thought of that before we started this. He laughed. I'd offer to massage it for you, but I have a feeling you might kick me again. Definitely, so save yourself and don't say it. Are you getting hungry? We can go to the pizza place for lunch. Or maybe Jake's place. Jake's place? I've passed by it, but I haven't been there yet. Then let's go. You're going to love it. Afterward, we'll take the bikes back and head to your house. Sounds good to me. Are we close enough we can walk the bikes? He laughed. You really are hurting, aren't you? We'll have to remember to be a little less ambitious in our adventures next time. He pointed to Jake's, which was just a little bit down the road, and she sighed. Perfect. Then maybe I'll be able to ride back from there. They had burgers, fries, and raspberry shakes at Jake's place. The shakes were phenomenal, as were most of the Bear Lake area raspberry shakes. It was what the area was known for. Once the bikes were returned, he glanced over at her. Do you want to go back? Or do you want to figure out something else to do? Amanda tilted her head to one side. Why don't we just go for a drive? My dad was into Sunday afternoon drives up here. Sometimes we'd go as far as Pocatello or Afton, and sometimes we'd just meander along roads in this area. Either way, it was always fun. Ryan shrugged. That sounds fun to me. Gives us time to talk and get to know one another. She groaned. Are you sure you want to know me better? I thought we were doing good with our casual acquaintance. He shook his head. You are a brat, Amanda. He looked at her more carefully for a moment. Have I told you yet how beautiful you look today? I love the casual clothes, and the way your hair is constantly falling out of that thing you put it up in. I like it down. You really don't like me dressed up, do you? No, I really don't. I can live with it, but I love seeing you look a little more casual. Like you do right now. She smiled for a moment, and then shook her head. I'm not sure what to think of you sometimes. Only good things. He winked at her. Let's go see what mischief we can get into. There has to be something we shouldn't be doing. As they drove, they talked about their goals and aspirations. He told her how the manager who had been running the store had almost bankrupted him. She talked about the thriving business she'd just left behind in Utah when she'd moved with her sisters. Why did you move, then? Did they really need you to run the band bee? No, but they needed me to decorate it. I could have just come up, done that part, and gone back, but I really did need a fresh start. She shook her head. Dylan was everywhere in the city for me. The convenience store where he was killed was on my way home from work. I actually drove 10 minutes out of my way every day so I didn't have to see it. How long did the two of you date? He asked softly. Just about a year. He was about to meet my family when he was shot. We were talking about a short engagement and a wedding in September. You know, last September. I had no idea you were so serious. Yeah. We were. He was one of those people who you met and you felt like you'd known them for your entire life. Our minds worked the same. We had the same taste in books. Seriously, we just kind of belonged together. And he never once complained about my obsession with colors. Amanda knew she shouldn't paint Dylan to be perfect, but that's what he was for her. Perfect in every way. What did he do? Ryan asked. When we first met, he was a grad student, working on his master's in English. By the time he was killed, he was teaching English at the local college. He was really good, too. How do you know he was a good teacher? I sat in on one of his lectures. He had to teach Moby Dick, and we kind of bonded over our mutual hatred of the novel. So, I went and listened to him talk about what a wonderful writer Herman Melville was, and how he revolutionized the American novel. It was all I could do not to laugh hysterically, because I knew how much he hated not only the novel, but Melville himself. That's fun. He stopped at a stop sign as they headed back to Richland. Does it bother you that I'm not as educated as him? Amanda shook her head. Not at all. I try not to compare the two of you because you're so different. Except in the way they could both make her heart race. In that, they were just alike. Chapter 20. Ryan and Amanda ate dinner with the Band B guests that evening, and they enjoyed the show as much as everyone else did. Lauren and Justin were in rare form as they each tried to one-up the other. You two need to get a room, Ryan finally said, unsure if he could take their constant bickering for another moment. He was glad he and Amanda had advanced beyond that stage. He didn't think anyone could be as annoying as Justin and Lauren, though. Lauren turned on him so fast, he almost jumped back. Are you trying to say that I like this serial killer? You wouldn't know a serial killer if he lured you away with candy, tied you up, and pulled out a knife. Justin was just as annoyed with Lauren as she was with him. And Ryan? I wouldn't share a room with her if she paid me. Like anyone would pay for your affections. Lauren got up and took her plate with her, obviously finished with her meal and the conversation. Justin looked stunned that she'd walked away from him, because she usually stood her ground, so he grabbed his plate and followed. Thankfully, whatever happened next took place in softer voices, and everyone didn't hear it. Taylor shook her head. I'm sorry about those two. They're oil and water, and they seem to think it's their duty to entertain the rest of us with their squabbles. Ryan shook his head, looking over at Amanda. Are we watching our show tonight? Well, we're not riding bikes, that's for sure. She reached down and rubbed her backside, much to his amusement. He chuckled. Next time won't be so bad. No, it won't, because I will make sure I recover first. We need to put a workout room in the basement with an exercise bike. Then I can get used to it before next summer. He liked the idea of them biking again the next summer, because it would mean they were still together. Well, if you won't do it again this summer, what are we going to do next week when I have a day off? I think the two-seater ATV is our only solution. Or we could do water scooters. You choose. Water scooters. I can't wait to see you in a bathing suit. Amanda sighed. I'll be sure to wear a t-shirt over the top of it. You don't need to be ogling me. I wouldn't ogle. I would admire. See the difference? Not particularly. She finished her meal and carried her plate into the kitchen, and Ryan couldn't help but wonder if she was trying to make sure her sister was all right. He got up and followed her, determined to know what was going on. Watching Lauren and Justin had become one of his favorite pastimes. They'd just gone a little too far for his tastes at supper. Neither was in the kitchen, and he just shrugged. Amanda was loading the dishwasher with the plates that had been left on the counter. Where'd they go? He whispered. I have no idea. I hope they're not strangling each other silently. Would you rather they strangled each other loudly? Amanda nodded. Then I'd know where to go to break them up. Are you really worried about that? He asked. He couldn't see them actually coming to blows and hurting each other, but Amanda knew them better than he did. Maybe a little, but not enough to go searching for them. They're adults, and they can deal with each other. Of course, she may be the straw that pushes him to really become a serial killer. Ryan shook his head at her, grinning. Let's just load the dishwasher for her. She might be upstairs in her room, licking her wounds. They tend to get vicious with one another. As people finished eating, they all brought their plates into the kitchen. Amanda thanked each person as she loaded their plate into the dishwasher. Taylor came in just as she was loading the last plate. I was going to do that. Amanda smiled at her sister. I get quarterly checks from this place. It's the least I can do to help with the upkeep on occasion. Very true. You should vacuum later. Amanda shook her head, laughing. I'm on cleaning the bathrooms this week. I think Kayla's on vacuuming. Yup, Kayla said from the other side of the counter. Ryan looked at her and was surprised at how filthy she was. She was the sister who flipped houses, but she usually at least showered before she was around the guests. I'm going to shower some of this dirt off me. She sounded awfully chipper as she said it. I think that's a great idea, Amanda said. What have you been doing? Rolling around in the sand? Kayla grinned. Alyssa sold me a house this afternoon. I had the cash, so they let me start working on it. Are you moving? Amanda wasn't sure if she wanted Kayla to move or not. She liked the idea of less noise, but Kayla hadn't been there long enough for the rest of them to get sick of her. Nope. It's next door, so I'll live here and work there. Isn't that awesome? I can't wait to have it ready. Taylor tilted her head to the side. The big red brick house? Yeah. That's the one. Why? A slow smile spread across Taylor's face. Well, if it's yours now, you could fix it up and sell it to us. We could double the size of the band B. Kayla nodded. Maybe. I'm thinking about using it as an Airbnb. I would love to have one in this area. Think about it and let me know. Ryan watched the whole exchange, surprised that the sisters would talk business so openly. He couldn't help but wonder if they often worked for one another and bought things from each other. Will you still have time to paint my place? He asked. Kayla laughed. Oh, yeah. Your first priority. The house next door is a little side project I'll work on. I need to be doing something other than vacuuming. I'm glad you found something to keep you occupied, Amanda said. No one wants a repeat of you running around naked for everyone to see. I was 4. Kayla said, shaking her head. And shame on you for bringing that up. I was 6. I was horribly embarrassed. You were prissy even then, Kayla said, walking toward the stairs. You're on my list, Amanda. Amanda laughed hysterically, and Ryan couldn't help but grin at her. You're not worried she'll retaliate somehow? Oh, she will. I can't wait to see what she comes up with. Amanda wandered into the living room and sat down in the middle of one of the couches. He sat beside her. We're almost half done with season 1. We're amazing, aren't we? If being couch potatoes makes us amazing, then that's exactly what we are. Amanda picked up the remote and set up the show, sitting with both legs curled beside her. He always wondered how she could do that, because he really wasn't that bendy. Ryan grinned over at her. Do you want to go for our walk tonight? Or do you think you want to stay in? Well, I did get plenty of exercise today, but my favorite part of the day is walking on the beach with you. So, we'll walk. He reached over and took her hand, amazed as always at just how delicate her hands were. He'd seen them made into fists so many times it was ridiculous, so it seemed strange they were so tiny. He had big worker's hands, and his fingernails were often dirty because of the type of labor he did. After their 2 shows, they started their walk. I'm going to need a key to your house, she announced as they walked. Are you moving in? He asked, liking the idea but knowing it wasn't something she'd ever agree to. No. I'm going to start working there tomorrow. I didn't think you'd want to have to come home and let me in every time. Darn it. I was hoping. I never lock the door. Just go in. No big deal. She frowned at him. Maybe you should lock your house. It's not safe leaving it unlocked that way. He shrugged. I've lived here all my life, and I can't remember there ever being a break-in. Even in tourist season, it's just not worth worrying about. Okay, but if you get robbed and all of your favorite things go missing, then you can't blame me. My favorite thing is walking beside me. Don't go missing, all right? She laughed, shaking her head. You're silly, Ryan. Maybe. But I mean it. She looked over at him, stopping her walk and just staring for a minute. And then she surprised him. She wrapped her arms around him, stood on tiptoe, and kissed him. It wasn't just a peck either. It was a full-blown kiss, and it made him want to keep her forever. When she pulled back, he looked deeply into her eyes. What was that for? For being so open with me about how you feel. You're really not a terrible boyfriend. Who'd have thought? Ryan sighed. And you're great with the compliments. Inside he was thrilled, though. She had actually shown him physical affection. It was the first time ever, and he couldn't be happier. As they continued walking, his mind was still on the kiss. She was quiet, which was normal for her, and he didn't mind, because he wasn't sure he was ready to speak at that moment. After they finished walking, she smiled at him. Do you want to watch one more show? Or is it too late? He glanced at his phone. It's only 9. I don't have to be at the store for 12 hours. If you can ignore the underwear on the floor in my kitchen, we're all good. Why would you take your underwear off in your kitchen? She asked. Sometimes you just have to get naked when you're eating all alone. She blushed, shaking her head. You're a mess. I think that's what I like best about you. He wondered if she was comparing him to Dylan then. Let's go watch our show. As they settled on the couch, she leaned against him, and he put his arm around her. Never before had she made so many overtures toward him. Maybe she was starting to feel a tenth of what he was feeling, and he liked that idea a lot. If she liked him just a tenth, then she was in love with him, too. Something about Amanda just made his heart sing. He watched her as much as he watched the show. He didn't much care what Lex Luthor was doing with Lois Lane. He was more curious about what he was doing with Amanda Romriell. The most beautiful woman he'd ever met. Even if she was insane when it came to paint colors. He could accept that about her. He'd be willing to accept just about anything about her, if she cared for him as much as he cared about her. He'd find out soon enough. After the show, she walked him to the door and went into his arms for her kiss goodnight. Remember to leave the door unlocked or give me a key. It'll be unlocked. Will Kayla be with you? Not tomorrow. I'll get everything ready for her to paint tomorrow, and then she'll paint Tuesday and Wednesday. Ryan nodded, leaning down and kissing the tip of her nose. Have I mentioned I like your nose? Have I mentioned that I think you've lost your mind? She asked. Over you. The whole way home, Ryan thought about nothing else but Amanda. She was becoming too important to him, and he wasn't sure he even cared. Chapter 21. Amanda felt strange just going into Ryan's house the next morning. Sure, she'd done it for many other clients, but she'd never dated a client either. She felt like she was invading his privacy. When she walked into the kitchen, there was a brand new pack of underwear on the floor, and she laughed and shook her head, knowing he'd placed it there just for her. She quickly removed everything from the walls. Kayla would do the real labor, but it was her job to get it ready for her sister. They'd done this together several times before, and she was pleased with her sister's work ethic. Of course, their father had instilled a work ethic in all of them as soon as they could crawl. It was amazing to her that not everyone worked as hard as they did. After she'd finished and put all of the old decorations into a box for Ryan to go through and decide what he wanted to keep and what he didn't care about, she looked around the room, and then went into the living room. It was definitely a place where a man lived. There was nothing cozy about it, in her opinion. She wanted to do the kitchen in a seafoam green, and then she'd do the living area in a soft eggshell. On her own, she'd have chosen different colors, but this was Ryan's house. She couldn't help but sneak a peek at his bedroom, where there really was underwear on the floor. Of the dirty variety. She wrinkled her nose and moved on. She went out to her car and got a big plastic tote to put all of the odds and ends she found around the house into. Kayla would be painting Tuesday and Wednesday, and the new appliances would be delivered on Thursday. She would put everything back together while she waited for the deliveries. She would have done new flooring, but it simply wasn't in his budget. It wasn't cheap to have things like that done in a rural area, so she would just do without. Though, she'd try to talk him into it. She grinned as she came up with an idea. Hurrying out to her car, she drove home, getting there just before noon. She'd buy him tacos and take them to the store, convincing him to eat with her, and she'd talk about the flooring then. It would only add a few thousand to the price to do both the kitchen and the living room, and they both desperately needed it. She was sure the flooring had been old when his parents had died, and it had gradually gotten worse. She hurried to the dock to wait for the taco boat, knowing Brandon wouldn't be late. As soon as he pulled up, he started making her tacos. I need some for Ryan as well, she said. Yeah, I know what he gets. He made 4 for Ryan and 3 for Amanda before handing her a bag with all of them. You need drinks? I have no idea. Throw them in. She pulled out cash to pay him and smiled. Thank you. I'm heading to the store, but have a good lunch. I'm making it, so it had better be good, Brandon said with a grin. Amanda carried the drinks and bag of tacos to her car and drove the short distance to the hardware store. Once she was inside, she looked around but didn't see Ryan. Charlie, the boy who was working there for the summer, called to her. "He's in his office." "Thanks." Amanda walked toward Ryan's office, stopping to knock on the door. His yell of, "Come in," didn't sound particularly friendly, but she decided she didn't mind. She opened the door to see him hunched over a stack of papers. When he looked up and saw her, a small smile spread across his face. "Hi there." "Hi. I brought lunch." "You're the best girlfriend ever. Please tell me there are tacos in that bag." "So many tacos." She set his can of Dr. Pepper in front of him, sat in the chair across from his, and pulled out the tacos, divvying them up. "Brandon said he knows what you like, so I trusted him to just take care of it." "Wow. I feel absolutely spoiled." "Today a rough day?" she asked softly. "You didn't look happy when I came in." "I just hate paperwork. I left it until I couldn't leave it any longer, and now I have a ton to do, and I don't want to do it." Ryan shook his head. "I should have done it before now, and I'm mad at myself for not. Makes sense to me. I'm always one who just does everything early, so it's done and out of the way." He stuck his tongue out at her as he unwrapped his first taco. "How's it going at my place?" She bit her lip. "Well, this might not be the best day for this, but I think you need new floors as well. I could do it for another 3,000. He groaned. "I do need new floors, but that's a lot of money. I'm not sure I want to spend it." "Totally up to you, but if you want to do it, now is the time. I could make a couple of phone calls and have the new appliances get delivered on Friday instead of Thursday. Get flooring done on Thursday and new living room furniture delivered on Monday instead of Friday." "What are we doing with old appliances and furniture?" he asked. "I was going to put them up on the Bear Lake Classifieds on Facebook for you. You won't get a lot, but it'll make up for some of the expense." He took a bite of his taco, obviously considering her suggestions. "That sounds good actually." "Yeah, get the floors done, too." "Wonderful. And I'm going to have paint mixed after lunch. I have it mostly ready for Kayla to get in there and do her thing, and now that we don't have to cover the floors, it'll be even easier." "You sure you don't mind selling the old stuff for me?" "This is what I do, Ryan. I'm a full-service interior decorator." "Does that mean I get kisses on command?" he asked, tilting his head to one side. Amanda laughed. "You're pushing it. Never hurts to ask, right?" He took another bite of his taco and sighed contentedly. "I brought a PB&J for lunch, and I've had so many of those things for lunches here that I was dreading eating it." "I'm so glad you showed up." "Me too," she said with a smile. "It's nice to just drop in and have lunch with you. I might do it more often while I'm working on your house. I had someone ask me about your flyer on Saturday. I can't believe I forgot to tell you. She wanted to know if you'd be willing to work on her place after tourist season so she can come back and just be happy with it." Amanda laughed. "I'd love to do that. I need more clients in this area. I could go back to SLC and be interviewing people before taking them on again, but here, I'm starting fresh." "Do you like it?" "You know, I really do. I love the slow build of a business. I almost think I liked building my business as much as I loved everything else about my job. It really does suit me." "I can see that. You look so happy when you talk about your work." "Are you happy with what you do?" she asked. He shrugged. "I've never really thought about it. I have always known I'd take over my dad's hardware store, and that's what I did. It never occurred to me to think I had choices in life. I'm sure you could sell this place and do something else if that's what you wanted, but I do like dating the owner of a hardware store. Makes my life easier." After lunch, she went to the paint counter and had the paint she needed mixed. Kayla had told her exactly how much to get. As the paint was being mixed, she started making calls about the flooring and moving the deliveries to other days. Before she left the store, she had everything set up to do exactly what she needed. She got back to Ryan's house and unloaded the paint buckets from the back of her car. There were more than she wanted to carry, but she couldn't ask Kayla to do it, so it was her job. She put the buckets in the rooms that needed to be painted, and then she got in her car and drove back to the Band B. Instead of going directly inside, Amanda walked next door to the house Kayla was renovating. The back door was unlocked, and she yelled out, "Marco," as she let herself in. Kayla didn't need her wits scared out of her. Amanda heard the corresponding polo as she walked through the house, looking for her sister. It was a beautiful place. The structure looked to be sound, but the carpets were filthy, and the walls had been colored on with crayon. Someone had really let the place go, and that was sad. She found her sister in the master bedroom, scraping up the tiles, which had been cracked. "This place is gorgeous," Amanda said. Kayla nodded. "It needs a ton of work, as you can see, but it's all cosmetic. I'll get it done, and then this will be the most beautiful summer rental in the world." Amanda laughed. "If you need some designing done." "I do. A lot of it. I even want you to tell me what colors to paint things, and then I'll give you a budget to furnish and decorate. Does that work for you?" Kayla asked. "Perfect. I'm excited to get started." "How's Ryan's place coming?" "Really well. It's ready to be painted tomorrow and Wednesday. He's going to let me put new flooring in, so you don't have to worry about splashing. I'm selling the old furniture, though, so that needs to get to the garage. I think we could carry it ourselves." "Okay. What time do you want to meet me there?" Kayla asked. "Let's say 10 tomorrow. Is that early enough?" "That's perfect. I'm just as much of a morning person as you are, so I'm all for starting mid-morning." "Glad to hear it. I don't want to have to get up too early to make it happen. Besides, Ryan doesn't usually leave until 9:30 or so. That gets him out of our way before we have to start working. It's a date." Amanda smiled. "Thanks, Kayla. We'll work out the work we do for each other and trade." "Sounds good to me." Chapter 22. On Monday afternoon, Amanda waited at Ryan's for him to get home from work. It was after 4, and he still wasn't there, so she curled up on his new couch and fell asleep, her phone still clutched in her hand. He found her that way a couple of hours later and knelt beside the couch, kissing her awake. She blinked at him a few times, trying to figure out what was happening. After a moment, it made sense. "Do you like everything?" He nodded emphatically. "I had no idea you knew me so well. The kitchen looks like a Bear Lake kitchen should look with the coloring and all of the lake things scattered around. I love the rowboat and 2 fish for the salt and pepper shakers. And this room, it's so comfortable now. It looks like a place I could invite people to without getting too terribly embarrassed." "Oh, good." Amanda sat up. "Sorry I fell asleep. I wanted to see your face when you saw it. No, I should have let you know I wouldn't be home until after 6 today." He got to his feet and stretched. "Do you want to stay here? Or should we eat at your place like usual?" She wiped her eyes, trying to think. "You know what? Let's go to my place. Only because neither of us will have to cook there." "Sounds good to me." He took her hand and pulled her to her feet, enveloping her in his arms. "Thanks for all you did here. It's beautiful." "Oh. I sold all the old stuff and earned half of the extra I made you spend." He grinned. "You're amazing, Amanda." "Nah. I've just been doing this for years." He followed her back to Romriell house so he could drive himself back later, and they got there just in time for supper. Lauren looked off to Amanda, as if she'd been crying, but Amanda had no idea why. She wanted to ask her, but there were too many people around. She had an idea about how to make her feel better, though. As soon as they'd eaten the fabulous meal Lauren had made for them, fajitas, both beef and chicken, with all the trimmings, Amanda pulled Ryan to the side. "Are you up for a short road trip instead of watching our show tonight? What are you thinking?" "I'll tell you in the car." Amanda went to her car, and he got into the passenger seat. She hadn't really driven him before, but he didn't seem to mind. She remembered that Nick never let Alyssa drive, and she was glad Ryan was a little more progressive in his thinking. As soon as they were on the road, she said, "Lauren's upset. I could tell she's been crying, so I'm going to get her favorite ice cream from Berline's in Montpelier. Unfortunately, they don't carry chocolate marshmallow anywhere in Richland. Then I'm getting her cupcakes. She's a huge fan of cupcakes. She once thought she should appear on Cupcake Wars. Works for me. Do we all get some of the ice cream and cupcakes? Or are they just for Lauren? I'll make sure I buy enough for everyone." Amanda had an idea of what was upsetting her youngest sister, but she felt as if she'd be betraying her if she talked to Ryan about it. "So, is that your answer for everything that goes wrong?" he asked. "Chocolate marshmallow ice cream?" Amanda nodded emphatically. "If you've got a better idea, I'm all ears." He laughed softly. "Nothing comes to mind at the moment." "Ice cream it is, then. And cupcakes, 'cause it's Lauren." "What would it be for the others?" he asked, curiously. "You seem to have ice cream a lot in your house." Amanda shrugged. "For Alyssa, it would be junior mint ice cream or just a couple of boxes of junior mints. She thinks they're a major food group. You'll notice that if you're upset around her, she always offers you junior mints." "And Taylor?" "Ah, we're going in age order, I see. Taylor loves ice cream, too, but her real weakness is tacos. I think that's why she and Brandon get along so well. If she gets upset with him, he just plies her with tacos until she's happy again." "You?" he asked. "I need to know what to do when I make you mad." She smiled. "I'm in the chocolate marshmallow ice cream group with Lauren. It's my favorite. Or a cupcake. Cupcakes tend to make me happy, too." "Kayla?" he asked. "Kayla will eat any sweet in the world, but I think her absolute favorite is gingerbread cookies, and she likes the ones shaped like houses. She's always been obsessed with houses and building, so that's her thing. And Lauren needs ice cream and cupcakes. Lauren is really happy with any sweet, too, but chocolate marshmallow ice cream will have her drooling. Seriously, the girl cannot live without the stuff, and it amuses the snot out of me." Ryan laughed softly. "You know your sisters well, don't you?" "Of course, I do. We're there for each other and always have been. My sisters are everything to me. I just wish I didn't have to live with them." He laughed. "Well, my house is all nice now. You should marry me and move in." Amanda frowned. "I hope that's not a real marriage proposal." She wanted a sweet, special proposal when the time came, but it couldn't be time yet, could it? He got quiet for a moment. "I guess it's not, then." She didn't look at him as they finished the drive into Montpelier, and she parked in the grocery store parking lot, hurrying in to get the two things she needed to make her sister happy. She was already inside the store as she realized that he'd stayed in the car, and she wondered what on earth she was supposed to do now. Asterisk. Ryan sat in the car, more than a little annoyed by the way Amanda had reacted. He'd been thinking about marriage with her for a while, and to have her shoot him down so quickly didn't make him feel good at all. He knew they hadn't been dating long, but that didn't matter to him. When he looked at Nick and Alyssa, he knew he could have that kind of love with Amanda. If only she wasn't so closed up. Slipping the idea into the conversation so casually probably wasn't the right thing to do with a girl like Amanda, but it was right for a man like him. While she was in the store, he quickly tapped Nick's name on his phone. When Nick answered, he sounded tired. "What's up? Are you alone?" Nick chuckled. "I'm a newlywed. Of course I'm not alone. Would you mind being alone for a minute? I want to run something by you." "Sure. Honey, I'm going to be outside talking to Ryan, who seems to be having an emotional crisis." There was a feminine laugh. "I'll be waiting for you." Ryan felt horrible interrupting whatever Nick and Alyssa were doing, but he really did need some advice. "Thanks for telling her I'm having an emotional crisis. I appreciate it." That's just what he wanted to get back to Amanda. "Anything for you, pal." "What's up?" Nick asked. Ryan heard a door close, and he knew Nick was alone for a minute. "I just casually asked Amanda to marry me, and she absolutely freaked out. Like told me that better not be a proposal and hasn't really spoken to me since. She's in the grocery store, so I'm taking a minute to call." "What do I do next?" Nick was silent for a moment. "You know that just because I'm married doesn't mean I know anything about women, right? I had Amanda coaching me what to do with Alyssa." Ryan frowned. "Well, then put Alyssa on the phone." Nick laughed. "All right." Going back inside. Ryan waited until he heard Alyssa's hello, and then he told her everything he'd just told Nick. "Nick said he wouldn't have figured out how to ask you to marry him without Amanda, so I figure you should help me." You know Amanda was all but engaged to a guy who was shot in the head, right?" "Yeah. I guess." Ryan didn't know a lot of the details still, but he knew that much. "She still blames herself for his death. Because she sent him for popcorn." "When you two watch Lois and Clark, does she ever eat popcorn?" Alyssa asked. "Well, no. It was her favorite thing in the whole world. She'd have eaten it for 3 meals a day if she could have gotten away with it. She forgot to get it at the store, and she sent Dylan to get popcorn so they could watch a movie at her place. He went to the store and never came back. I think you need to get her to be able to eat popcorn before you ask her to marry you. Once she can do that, you'll know she feels free to have another relationship." "I know that sounds weird, but I think that's the answer." Ryan frowned. He'd had no idea Amanda was still feeling guilty. "Okay, she's coming back to the car. Should I act like everything is okay between us?" "Absolutely. She needs to know you're not mad at her." Kid gloves, Ryan. "Okay, bye." Ryan ended the call and waited as Amanda got back into the car. "Did you get everything?" Amanda glanced at him as if she was surprised he was talking to her, but she nodded in answer. "Yeah. A gallon of chocolate marshmallow ice cream and a dozen cupcakes. Should make her happy, right? You know her better than me. Should I leave as soon as we get back, or am I allowed to partake in the Lauren is upset feast?" She grinned. "You can partake if you would like. If she wants to talk and wants you to leave, then you have to leave. Is that a fair arrangement?" "Oh, absolutely. I expect that I would be in the way when it comes to girl talk for sure." He shrugged. "I'm just glad I get to stay for a little while." "You can stay as long as you like. You might want to leave us alone for girl talks, but you could stay. Maybe you could talk to Justin. He's been even weirder than usual lately." "Nope. Not happening. He's a good guy, but I'm not interfering with those two. Never, no how." Ryan was sure that Lauren was upset because the two of them were fighting again. He wasn't sure how they hadn't figured out that they were attracted to each other yet, but whatever. It wasn't up to him to fix them. As Amanda drove back toward Richland, he leaned back in his seat, thinking about how comfortable he was with Amanda. He was attracted to her, yes, but she'd become someone he simply enjoyed spending time with as well. Well, I'll still let you have sugar time with us. She slowed down to let a few cows cross the highway in front of them. Do we let someone know that cows are loose? I'll call 911. They always know whose cows they are and will call the appropriate rancher. Ryan pulled out his phone and made the call, noting that she was laughing silently beside him. When he had relayed the information to the dispatcher, he looked at Amanda. What's so funny about that? I've only called 911 for actual emergencies, and here you are, acting like it's totally normal to call emergency services for some cows crossing the highway. He shrugged. They were an emergency. What if someone didn't see them and didn't slow down and wrecked their car? Neither of us are unaware of road dangers. She sighed. You have a good point. It's still a little funny for a city girl like me to see that, though. Well, you're a country girl now. You might need to start getting used to it. Chapter 23. Back at the house, Amanda knocked on Lauren's door while Ryan waited in the living room. I got you something. Lauren dashed a tear from her eye. Unless it's chocolate marshmallow ice cream, I'm really not interested. Chocolate marshmallow ice cream and cupcakes. Lauren grinned. You're my favorite sister. Well, that's a given, isn't it? Amanda linked arms with Lauren, and the two of them headed for the stairs. Should we tell Kayla and Taylor? Taylor's out with Brandon, probably eating tacos. And Kayla is playing with her new house. It's just you and me. And Ryan, Amanda said. He's waiting in the living room because he thought if he went with me to fetch emergency ice cream, he should be able to eat some of said emergency ice cream. He really doesn't get how sisters do things, does he? He's welcome to eat with us. As long as Justin isn't around, I'll be very happy. Amanda nodded. She knew it was Justin. The two of them just couldn't seem to stop fighting with each other. If he comes to the kitchen, we have to give him some ice cream. In a to-go cup. We have lots of them. Lauren smiled. Maybe we could lock him in his room and I could shove his meals through his window. You know better than that, Lauren. He's a paying guest. Lauren sighed. I know. As soon as they got to the kitchen, Lauren found the ice cream scoop and dished up 3 bowls of ice cream while Amanda got out 3 paper plates to use for the cupcakes. We're having a sugar feast. Amanda grinned. I always love sugar feasts. In the living room we go. It took them 2 trips to get all the yummy snacks into the living room, and Ryan was obviously content to eat his ice cream. Am I allowed to stay? He asked. Lauren nodded. Until you're done with your feast, and then I'm going to make Amanda hang out with me. Ryan nodded. That's fair. Thanks for letting me have sugar with you. You're welcome. Lauren looked down at the cupcake and smiled. This is pretty. It should have been on Cupcake Wars. I don't think it's pretty enough for that, Amanda said. You could do better. Well, sure, because I'm really good at decorating. I almost think I need to see if I can get a job doing something away from the band bee for a while. I'm not doing great. I think you're just overworked, Amanda said, knowing the real problem was in Lauren's relationship with Justin. Why don't you take tomorrow off? I don't have any work that needs to be done, and I can make breakfast and dinner. Maybe not as well as you can, but I'm a decent cook. Lauren smiled. I could do a breakfast casserole in the crock pot, and all you'd have to do is serve it in the morning. She looked very excited at the idea of a whole day off. That sounds good. Much easier and tastier than me cooking. And for supper, I was just going to do a pot roast. I'll get everything ready for it, so all you have to do is pop it in the electric roaster after breakfast. I'll write down specific instructions. Lauren bit her lip. Are you sure you don't mind? I don't want to mess up your day off. I'm positive. Amanda could see that Lauren really did need the time. I think you should take a water scooter and just go have fun on the lake. Eat crepes for breakfast. And you could even go catch a movie somewhere. Just do stuff you want to do. Lauren was bouncing. You're right. That's just what I need. Time to just be me. It's a deal, then. You have everything ready for me to cook, and I'll do the cooking. I can serve food as well as you can. It wasn't something Amanda would enjoy like Lauren did, but she could do it and do it well. Lauren hugged Amanda, carefully avoiding spilling ice cream. Let Taylor know that you volunteered so she doesn't think I roped you into anything. She paused. Oh, we have 2 rooms checking out tomorrow. Rooms will need to be cleaned. Between Taylor and me, we can do that, too. You're free. Stop trying to make it so you have to stay. Thank you. The words were heartfelt. You are my favorite sister for the next whole week. Oh, yay. I've reached my life goal. Amanda winked at Lauren, who laughed. Lauren nodded. I knew you'd be pleased. She ate her last bite of ice cream and went into the kitchen. I'm going to start tomorrow's meals. Once Lauren was gone, Ryan looked at Amanda. Wow. You really did know what to do to help her, didn't you? She is my sister, you know. I've learned that I can usually figure out what's wrong with my sisters and fix them pretty easily. And they can do the same for me. For the most part. Some things are beyond ice cream and talking, but most of the time, we do just fine with those 2 things. Ryan got to his feet. I think I'm going to call it a night. I have more paperwork to do tomorrow, and you have to be up early to deal with all the cooking and cleaning you just agreed to. Don't you think she deserves a whole day off? I do. And I think you're wonderful for giving it to her. He pressed a quick kiss against her lips before he took his dishes to the kitchen. Amanda went to help Lauren. What can I do? She was vaguely aware of Ryan leaving, but she was concentrating on Lauren and what she could do to help. Lauren nodded to 3 pounds of sausage she'd set on the counter. Brown that, and then I'll tell you the next thing. They worked well together, having often cooked together to help their mother out. They were good at cleaning together, too. When you were part of a big family, you learned your place quickly and how to work with your siblings. When they'd finished the breakfast casserole, Lauren looked at Amanda. Do you think if we prep everything else, you could peel potatoes yourself? We'll need a whole bag of them, but I don't want them getting brown, and that's what they do when you peel them too early. Amanda shrugged. I can peel potatoes. 5-pound bag? 20-pound bag from Costco. Yeah, I can do that. It's going to be eye-opening to be Lauren for a day, isn't it? She'd never peeled 20 pounds of potatoes in her life. At least we're prepping a lot, which will make it easier. The meat is seasoned and ready. You'll just throw that in, and we have a huge bag of baby carrots. All that goes in. Add a couple cups of water. And then you want to make a brown gravy with it. Should be pretty simple. No fresh bread? Amanda asked. She knew Lauren usually served fresh bread with that kind of meal. There are 3 frozen loaves of dough in the freezer. I'll have them ready to just pop in the oven for a bit right before supper. I can do that. Should I make a dessert? Lauren bit her lip. I was going to make a new cheesecake, but we have some mixes for key lime pie in the pantry from that little store in Paris. We have everything necessary to whip them up. I'll do that, then. How many should I make? Amanda was starting to really respect her youngest sister and all the work she did for the band bee. I'd do 3. It won't take you long. All right. I'll do it. Taylor walked into the house, then, going straight to the kitchen. What are you 2 up to? Lauren's taking the day off tomorrow, Amanda told her. I'm going to cover for her. I'll need help with the cleaning, and we're prepping everything we can for breakfast and supper. All right. You need a day off, Lauren. I just can't cook as well as you do. That's why I'm helping Amanda prep. She's going to peel a small mountain of potatoes to add with the baby carrots and the roast for supper. I think she's going to be fine. Lauren grinned at Amanda. And I'm taking a whole day to do whatever I want to do. I might even drive to Logan and do a little shopping. I want a good mystery novel to lose myself in. That sounds fun. Just enjoy yourself, and know that I've got your back, even if I have to drag our three sisters into the kitchen to help me. Taylor nodded emphatically. You should be getting a day off every week. If you could prep like Amanda is talking about, I think the rest of us could do our share to make it happen. Lauren looked excited. That would be awesome. Even a day every other week. The walls of this house are starting to close in on me, and I need to go somewhere and enjoy myself. Do it, Taylor said. She jumped in and helped with the prep. I'll do all the cleaning tomorrow, since you're cooking, Amanda. And we'll serve supper together and clean up the kitchen after together. Then you're not taking quite so much of the burden. Perfect. And Kayla is working right next door if we need to drag her in, Amanda said. She gets a check from this place, just like the rest of us do. Very true. She needs to help out. When they were finished, Lauren hugged them both. Thank you. I can't wait to just have a day to do whatever I want tomorrow. Enjoy it. Amanda grinned at Taylor as Lauren hurried off. Her mood was completely different. Taylor looked at Amanda. Thanks for seeing a need and jumping in. We all get so involved with our own stuff that we tend to forget about how much Lauren is doing. I appreciate you going out of your way to make it easier on her. Amanda shrugged. It's not too much for me to do it for one day. Taylor looked around the kitchen and spotted the cupcakes. What are those for? Lauren was having a rough day, so I went to Montpelier and got ice cream and cupcakes for her. Sounds good to me. I'm having some. Once Taylor had made her ice cream, they went into the living room together. I think things have gotten a lot worse between Lauren and Justin. She was crying in her room when I went to tell her that she had ice cream waiting for her in the kitchen. Amanda felt that since Taylor was the manager of the band B, she needed to know how bad things were. Taylor frowned. I noticed something was wrong, but I was too wrapped up in my own life to really pay attention. I'm a terrible sister. You're a wonderful sister. I just happened to think to do something, and you didn't. No big deal, in my opinion. Well, it's appreciated. And not only by Lauren. Taylor took a big bite of the ice cream. You sure do pick out the best ice cream. Alyssa would argue with you there. Alyssa has left the building. I can't believe she's married and living with her new husband. I just thank God every day it's not Tim, Amanda said, shaking her head. Nick is the right man for her. One look at her face is all it takes to see that. And what about you? Any wedding bells in your future with Ryan? Amanda sighed. I feel okay dating Ryan, but when he mentioned marriage tonight, I thought I'd lose my mind. I still feel like I killed Dylan. I don't deserve to be happy and married, do I? I think you do, Taylor said, shaking her head. You didn't kill Dylan. You asked him for your favorite treat from the store. You need to get over those feelings. You really do. I don't want you living your life without love. You deserve so much more than that. I guess. I feel like I'm not quite ready to be happy. Does that make any sense at all? Taylor shook her head. Nope. It doesn't. Dylan died, and it was a horrible tragedy, but you're not in the grave with him and you shouldn't be. I'm not trying to be harsh, but it's been over a year. You need to learn to love again. What about you and Brandon? Amanda asked, feeling cornered. You two aren't engaged. That's because I'm still wrapping my head around the idea of being in a relationship at all. Someday, it'll happen between us. I feel like we belong together. Amanda looked down at her hands. Ryan is so very different from Dylan. How could I have feelings for both men? I don't know the answer to that, Amanda. I do know that Ryan is good for you. I never saw you with Dylan, so I can't compare, and I don't think I should compare. Just go with what makes you happy for now. I'll do my best. Amanda stood and stretched. I have to be up early in the morning. I'm heading to bed. I'll help you all I can. Taylor ate the last bite of her ice cream and took the bowl into the kitchen. Love you, Amanda. Amanda smiled. Love you, too. Chapter 24. Amanda groaned when her alarm went off at 6 the next morning, and she thought about shutting it off and going back to sleep, but then she remembered that she was on cooking duty for the day. She showered and went down the stairs, absolutely exhausted. Lauren was the only sister who was an early morning person, and that's why she'd taken on breakfast in the first place. In the kitchen, she checked the casserole, which looked perfect to her. Then she started a pot of coffee brewing. She and her sisters were definitely not coffee drinkers, but they needed to have it on hand for the guests. No one was downstairs yet, so she served herself a bowl of the casserole. She didn't usually eat breakfast, because she was still sleeping, so she was anxious to try one of Lauren's new recipes. It only took one bite for her to love it. It was absolutely delicious. Lauren was the first to come downstairs. I'm going to the crepe place instead of eating here, she announced. I will be home when I get here. Amanda grinned. I hope you have a fabulous day off. I will. I called a friend who lives in Logan, and we're doing pitas and shopping and doing whatever we want today. She's between semesters, so she has a little time. Good for you. I'll see you tonight or tomorrow. Lauren had a little spring to her step as she left, and Amanda couldn't help but grin. Amanda got a few pieces of fruit out for the guests if they wanted to have a little for breakfast. She was chopping up some melon when she heard a snide voice behind her. Trying to figure out what you're going to poison me with this morning? She turned and smiled at Justin. Wrong sister. He sighed. You all have similar builds and your hair is the same color and same length. Until you actually look at me, I never know who I'm talking to. He looked around. Where's Lauren? She's taking a mental health day. Amanda didn't add that she needed to get away from him, because that would be rude. Lauren needs those more than most. Amanda frowned. You need to be just a little nicer to my baby sister. She's not nice to me. You need to be nicer to each other. You're upsetting the other guests, and Lauren is starting to get upset by it all. She is? I never meant to upset her. He shook his head. Now I feel like a jerk. You're not a jerk. You just didn't realize that she wasn't having as much fun anymore. I'll try to do better. He looked at the casserole she dished onto a plate for him. That looks delicious. Lauren made it. Do you want fruit? Coffee? No thanks. Just some orange juice, but I can get it myself. I'll get it. She poured him a large glass of orange juice. Thanks. I'll bring you my plate when I'm done. He took it into the dining room, looking a little perplexed by what she'd told him. Amanda just hoped it would help a little. After that, there were several people popping in for breakfast, and Amanda served them all. No one else seemed bothered that it was a different sister serving them, but no one else had been there as long as Justin. He brought her his plate, and she put it in the dishwasher. Will you be having supper with us? He tilted his head to the side. What are you serving? Pot roast, mashed potatoes, carrots, fresh bread. I'll be there. I hope you're using Lauren's recipe, because she makes the best pot roast I have ever eaten. With that, he wandered back to his room to do whatever he did in there all day. Amanda started dinner in the roaster on a low heat as Lauren had instructed. She'd add the carrots and potatoes around noon. Thankfully, they didn't really serve lunch, so she would have time to do the breakfast dishes and peel the mountain of potatoes waiting for her. Taylor was up earlier than usual, and she joined Amanda in the kitchen, serving herself some of the casserole. She ate at the kitchen table instead of going into the dining room. Do you know if the guests in the end of Green Gables room and the Frankenstein room have checked out yet? Amanda shook her head. Not to my knowledge. I've been down here since 6:30, so unless they left before that, I would say no. All right. I want to get their rooms clean as soon as they go, because we have guests coming to take their places tonight. Taylor hit a yawn. Are you going to work in between your Band B duties? I'm not planning on it. Today is all about working for Lauren. I will have tacos at lunchtime with everyone else. Very smart of you. Brandon's tacos make the world go round. Oddly enough, I agree with that. Amanda grinned at Taylor. You really should marry the guy. We need to keep those tacos in the family. Taylor laughed. Not a good enough reason to marry someone, but thanks for the suggestion. No problem. Amanda wiped off the counter and looked at the huge bag of potatoes that all needed to be peeled within a couple of hours. So many potatoes. We probably should have just canceled dinner today. We haven't yet put on our website that we offer it. Yeah, but it was offered when people arrived. It's not fair to not serve it now. Amanda opened the top of the bag and dumped all the potatoes into one half of the sink, running water over them. She got a grocery store plastic bag and put it in the other half. Their mother had taught her to never peel potatoes into a garbage disposal. Taylor ate and chatted with Amanda while she peeled the potatoes. She was only a quarter finished when Taylor put her own plate into the dishwasher. Sorry, I can't visit more. I have work I need to do. That's fine. I can listen to music or even a book on tape if I need to, but I think I'll listen to my own thoughts instead. One question before you leave me. What's that? How on earth does Lauren peel potatoes so quickly? Her knife just flies over them, and I'm dragging with this potato peeler. Taylor just laughed as she went to the front desk to start her own work day. Late that evening, after the dishes were done and after she and Ryan had gone for their walk on the beach, Amanda remembered what Alyssa had suggested to her. She had told her to write a letter and burn it, a letter to her parents, but Amanda was at peace, though still sad, over her parents' death. It was Dylan who haunted her. She wasn't sure she would ever stop blaming herself for his death. She went up to her room and sat at her desk, putting a pen to paper. She wrote to Dylan about how sorry she was that she'd asked him to go for popcorn. She told him how much she loved him, but that she needed to move on with her life. She told him she would always love him, and she would think of him every day. So much emotion and pain poured into the letter, and when she was finished, it was more than 15 handwritten pages. Amanda read back over every word, making sure that all of the emotions she needed to get out were there. When she was satisfied, she walked down to the kitchen, and she grabbed the lighter for the grill. Walking outside, she carefully lit the letter, watching as the ashes scattered in the wind. And then she finally went to bed. It had been the longest day she'd had in ages, and she didn't set an alarm. She'd wake up when she woke up. Thank heavens Lauren would be back the next day to work her magic. Amanda was sure she couldn't have done it 2 days in a row. Asterisk. Amanda spent most of the following day with Kayla, talking about what her sister wanted done. Are you wanting homey or elegant? I could see both with this house. I think I want both. I want the kitchen homey, the formal living room elegant, and the informal homey. Does that work? Amanda nodded, walking through and looking. Do we want the homey rooms to have lake pictures and signs? Like lake rules, that sort of thing? I know you know the signs I'm talking about because they're in every souvenir shop around here. I think so. I think that would be cute. And make the laundry room have little signs, too. I think we could make it really fun. The house is big and will hold a lot of people. If I can just rent it out a few nights a month, then I'll have enough to pay a mortgage on a second house while this one makes me money. I think I want to do several Airbnbs here. It just makes sense for the area. I'm all for it. Amanda kept looking and nodded. And you just want me to pick colors? Please. All right. I'm going to work on this today so you can get started with the new flooring and painting. You want it fully furnished as well, right? I do. Kayla shrugged. I want a table for eating in the kitchen and another in the dining room. I want the house to have options. The big thing about an Airbnb, though, is we'll want to put room for as many people as possible to sleep in every room. Like bunk beds, even 2 sets of them, so groups can cram more people in here. So, we want to maximize sleeping space. Got it. Amanda made a note. All right. I'm going to head to the hardware store. You get everything ready to paint, and I'll bring you paint. We'll start with the kitchen and dining room. Thank you, Manda. I'm so glad to have you on my side as I strike out with a new venture. Just remember that you have to help me when I need it, too. We make a good team. We sure do. Mom and Dad would be proud. Amanda nodded. They would. Their daughters all living together and working to help one another. It would have been a dream come true for them. Kayla nodded. Go. I'm going to try to get a little more of the crayon art off the walls so it won't be so hard to paint over. Make sure to get me lots and lots of KILZ. If I don't use it in this house, I'll use it in the next. All right. Back soon. Amanda went to her car and headed for the hardware store, feeling lighter than she had in a very long time. And oddly enough, she was hungry for popcorn. Chapter 25. When Amanda got to the hardware store, she found Ryan at the paint counter. Hello. I need colors. She stood and waited for some sarcastic reply. She knew how he felt about her color obsession. Ryan shook his head at her. Of course you do. What ridiculous colors do you need me to mix today? There was laughter in his eyes as he gazed at her, a goofy grin on his face. She shook her head as she named the colors she was looking for. You love my colors. I love everything about you, he said, jotting down what she'd told him. How would you feel about driving to Logan Saturday for a nice meal and a movie? I know you said you'd rather stay home, but I want to take you somewhere. She nodded. Yeah, we can do that. Just let me know when, and I'll be ready. Thanks. He watched her for a moment. Have you had lunch? She shook her head. Not yet, and I need to be home in 15 minutes if I'm going to be able to get tacos. I'm coming, too. You are? He nodded. I can go to lunch on occasion. This store has almost been a prison to me since I took it over. I've worked long, hard hours to make it what it is. But it's good now, and I have qualified people in place. I can easily leave for a little while for lunch every day. You don't have to convince me. I'll meet you at the house. Amanda knew how hard he'd worked to get the store where it was. It was obvious in everything he said and did. He needed a break as much as Lauren had. After lunch, which included every one of her sisters as well as Justin, Amanda headed back to the house Kayla was working on. She was surprised when Ryan followed her. "I'm going to have a whole list of things that need to be ordered for this place," she told him. "It's got 6 bedrooms, and Kayla wants it to be used as a weekly rental property." He nodded, walking in with her. "You're going to need a lot of KILZ. That's one of the things I went to your shop for today." "Really?" She nodded. "I'll go back as soon as I've checked on a couple of things for Kayla. We're going to work together on this." "I think that's great." "Does she pay you when you do that?" he asked. "We usually work things out in trade. She'll get my discounts on the appliances and furniture, and I'll do the work for her, but when I need someone to paint and do other renovations, she'll be there for me." "Do you keep track?" Kayla came in then and laughed at the question. "Keep track? No need. We both want to make sure the other feels like she's getting the better end of the deal, so we work our butts off for each other." Ryan smiled. "I think I like that method of doing things." "Me too," Amanda said emphatically. "It feels right. I'm heading back to the store. I just wanted to see the house a little." Amanda hugged him quickly. "I'll be there in a while with a nice long list of strange things for you to order for me." He sighed. "I've never ordered so many fancy faucets in my life." She shrugged. "I have good taste." Kayla laughed. "I hope you're ready to make the list, Amanda. We have a ton to do." "I'll see you soon," Amanda said to Ryan, and then she followed Kayla. "I have my catalogs in my purse, and I'll circle and put tick marks for a number of things we need, then I'll take the catalog to Ryan. He might need to order me a dozen." "Oh, wouldn't that make him happy?" As the two sisters worked together, Amanda realized just how well they knew how each other worked. It was perfect, and the house would be beautiful. Because the two of them together could make any house beautiful. Asterisk. Ryan took the afternoon off on Friday and drove to Logan to have his mother's engagement ring sized. He wanted Amanda to wear something that had belonged to his mother. He knew that it might be months before he could ask her to marry him, but as soon as she was ready, he would be as well. He was doing his best to tread carefully where her emotions were concerned. He made it to supper just in time, and during their walk that night, he confirmed what time he'd pick her up for their dinner and movie date. "We could just stay here, but I don't mind getting out. You can save me from any social awkwardness I might run into." "Sounds good to me," Ryan said with a smile. "I will be on my toes and ready to make sure no one makes you feel nervous or scared. You're the best Ryan I've ever dated." "Have you dated any other Ryans?" "Of course not. Why would you think I had?" He smiled as he realized how much lighter-hearted she was acting all of a sudden. It was as if a switch had been flipped inside her, and she was more of the happy-go-lucky 20-something she should be. He hoped it meant the great things for their future together that he thought it did. Asterisk. At the movies on Saturday, Ryan bought a big popcorn for them to share, watching Amanda carefully. At first, she frowned at the huge tub of salty goodness. But after a minute, she reached out and took a couple of pieces. And then a couple more. They finished the tub before the movie was over, and he knew he needed to watch to see if she had any adverse reactions. And he didn't mean of the allergic variety. On their drive back through Logan Canyon, he asked if she'd enjoyed the movie. "Yes. It was fabulous. I'm loving all the new superhero movies coming out." She sighed. "Do you mind if I close my eyes going through the canyon? I hate this part of the drive. Especially in the dark." "Of course not." He kept his eyes on the road, worried about animals. There were always so many at night, and he'd known a lot of drivers who had hit them. "Thanks for taking me to dinner and the movie. I really had a nice time. I guess I should have let you take me out before." I just like being alone with you. He smiled at that. I like being alone with you, too. When they returned to Romriell house, they decided to take their nightly stroll on the beach, and he felt the ring box burning a hole in his pocket. Thanks for sharing a popcorn with me. Popcorn is one of my very favorite things, she said softly. We never have it when we watch Lois and Clark, though. Why not? He knew why, but he wanted her to tell him. I've kind of felt that I should punish myself for the way Dylan died. You see, I've always been a popcorn addict, and when he died after I sent him out for popcorn because I'd forgotten to buy it, well, I haven't really let myself eat it. I know it's weird, but it was my way of atoning for my part in his death. Ryan stopped walking and turned toward her. You know you're not responsible for what happened that night, don't you? I think I do now. I just kept thinking that if I hadn't sent him to the store, he would still be fine. She shook her head. I've been working on all that. My mother used to tell me I couldn't crawl into his coffin with him. His mother even said that to me when I ran into her in Salt Lake a couple of weeks ago. It was just hard for me to come to that conclusion for myself. But you're there? He asked. She nodded emphatically. I think I am. I can't say that I don't still miss him or that I'll ever stop loving him. He was my first love, and that's something pretty darn special. Ryan felt his heart sink. Did that mean she couldn't love him? What does that mean for me? He asked. He knew it probably wasn't the right time to ask, but he needed to know if he was wasting his time with her. He wanted forever, and she wanted, well, he couldn't figure out what she wanted yet. He was my first love. You have the opportunity to be my last. If you want it, that is. He narrowed his eyes. Are you telling me you love me? I can't think of any other reason I'd put up with your nonsense. Can you? Just say the words. Amanda grinned, putting her hands on his shoulders and looking deeply into his eyes. I love you, Ryan, even though you're a giant pain in my butt. I love you back, Amanda. I think I loved you the first time I saw you looking all expensive in my store. Expensive? Amanda laughed. How did I look expensive? He shrugged. You were wearing slacks, not jeans. You were wearing a silk blouse, not a t-shirt. You looked expensive. People don't usually go to hardware stores in silk blouses. People are weird. I went in what I was wearing. She sighed. I bought a bunch of jeans, and I think I've been doing a better job of fitting in. You have. He leaned down and pressed his lips to hers, wondering if it was time to pull out the ring, but he decided he had plenty of time. She was planning for him to be her last love, which meant they had the rest of their lives. Asterisk. Amanda walked into the house after their walk and kissing Ryan goodnight, feeling as if she was positively glowing. Bear Lake had been good for her.